Catherine Allwood waited in the conference room on the top floor of an imposing skyscraper, overlooking the vast expanse of the bustling city below. At 50, she exuded a presence that commanded respect, her sophisticated attire and meticulously arranged hair lending her an air of undisputed authority in the technology sector. A widow with a past marked by an open wound, the disappearance of her son Daniel nearly 2 decades ago, Catherine had directed every fragment of her energy towards scaling the pinnacles of professional success. Her office was a reflection of her mind, organized, elegant, and not a single paper out of place. Large glass windows revealed the urban horizon, and modern artworks punctuated the light walls, adding a touch of sophistication and depth. That day, she was engaged in selecting a new personal assistant, a crucial role that demanded not just competence but almost telepathic attunement to her requirements. Candidates came and went, each trying to impress with their skills and accomplishments, but none had truly captured her interest. Until Elliot walked in. Elliot was a young man of average height, with brown hair styled in an unpretentious manner and eyes that reflected a mix of intelligence and caution. When called, he crossed the room with firm steps, his posture confident, yet not arrogant. "Good morning, Mrs. Allwood. It's a pleasure to finally meet you," he said, extending his hand. Catherine looked up from her tablet, where she had been reviewing the notes from the previous candidate, and greeted him. As they shook hands, something shiny on Elliot's wrist caught her attention. It was a watch. Not just any watch, but a vintage model painfully familiar to her. Her heart skipped a beat. "Please, have a seat, Elliot," she said, her voice maintaining its professional timbre, though her interior was in turmoil. "Tell me a bit more about your previous experience and what brings you to my company." Elliot nodded, sitting down across from her with a straight posture. "Certainly, Mrs. Allwood. I come from a background in technology project management and have a strong interest in process optimization. I believe my ability to adapt emerging technologies to solve complex problems would be a great addition to your team." As Elliot spoke, Catherine struggled to maintain her concentration. Her gaze was involuntarily drawn to the watch on his wrist. It was identical to the one she had given Daniel on his last birthday before he disappeared. An exclusive model with an intricate dial and an aged leather strap. She had chosen that watch because it was unique, something Daniel could carry with him and remember home by, wherever he was. "Elliot, that watch you're wearing," Catherine interrupted, her curiosity overcoming her usual reserve. "It's quite unusual. Can you tell me where you got it?" Elliot looked at his own wrist, seeming a bit surprised by the question. "Ah, this watch is one of my treasures. It was a gift from my adoptive father," he explained, a slight smile touching his lips. "He said it was from an antique auction. I've always liked its classic design." Catherine nodded, a storm of thoughts swirling in her head. The coincidence was too great to ignore, and she knew she could not rest until she discovered the true origin of that watch. "Interesting," she said, managing a half smile. "Elliot, you would be a valuable addition to our team. Let's discuss some operational details, and then I would like to talk more about your role here." As the interview continued, Catherine was already formulating plans. She needed to investigate further, and that meant bringing Elliot closer, not just as an assistant, but as a key piece in a personal mystery she desperately needed to solve. After the interview with Elliot, Catherine Allwood sat alone in her conference room on the top floor of a towering skyscraper, the city lights flickering against the glass as night fell. The decision had been made even before Elliot left the room. She would hire him, not just for his undeniable qualifications, but also because of the unsettling mystery surrounding him, embodied by that vintage watch. It was too significant a coincidence to ignore, and the gears of her plan were already in motion. The next day, Elliot received the official notification of his hiring. Understandably, he was ecstatic. "I am truly honored and eager to start, Mrs. Allwood. Thank you for the opportunity," he said during a video call, his gratitude apparent even through the screen. Catherine, for her part, maintained her professional composure. "We are equally pleased, Elliot. I hope you will bring not only your skills, but also your innovative ideas," she responded, managing a calculated smile. As soon as the call ended, she picked up her phone and dialed a familiar number. "Marcus, it's me, Catherine. I need a favor, a big favor, she began, as soon as the detective's raspy voice came on the line. There's a new development in my life that might be related to Daniel. It's a long story. It involves a watch and my new personal assistant. Marcus, a longtime friend and confidant, was well acquainted with the story of Daniel. A watch, you say? That sounds intriguing. Sure, Catherine, you know you can count on me for anything. What do you need me to do? I want you to discreetly investigate Elliot's past. Find out everything you can about him, especially anything that might connect to Daniel or the watch. I need answers, Marcus, and fast, instructed Catherine, her voice laden with an urgency she rarely allowed to show. Understood, replied Marcus. I'll start immediately. You'll have the information you need. We'll unravel this together. With the investigation underway, Catherine focused on Elliot, watching him closely as he integrated into the team. He was meticulous in his work, always the first to arrive and one of the last to leave. His efficiency and courtesy were undeniable, but there was a melancholy in his eyes, a shadow that seemed to hide an untold story. Catherine often wondered what might have happened in Elliot's life to leave him with such a look. During meetings, she observed how he interacted with his colleagues, always polite, yet maintaining a respectful distance. In moments of pause, he would gaze out at the expanse of the city, as if searching for answers only he knew the questions to. Are you settling in well, Elliot? Catherine asked one day after a team meeting. She approached him with a casual air, but every word was calculated. Yes, Mrs. Allwood, I am truly impressed with the team and the projects. I feel I can really make a difference here, replied Elliot, his tone sincere. Catherine nodded, satisfied with the response, but aware that the real answers she sought lay beyond the words exchanged in a professional setting. She needed proof, connections, something tangible that could lead to Daniel. And as she awaited Marcus's findings, a new complication was about to emerge, bringing with it challenges that could affect not just Elliot's investigation, but also the stability of her company and her own reputation. Vanessa, always a thorn in her side, began to notice the growing closeness between Catherine and Elliot, and, with her cunning mind and dubious intentions, it didn't take long for her to begin weaving her web of intrigue. While Catherine Allwood continued to manage her corporate responsibilities with the astuteness of a veteran in the technology sector, her mind often wandered to the mystery surrounding Elliot and the possible connection to her missing son. Even as she navigated these turbulent waters of emotion and uncertainty, a different storm was brewing on the horizon, fueled by the envy and malice of her rival, Vanessa. Vanessa, with her perfectly styled hair and always dressed to impress, was an imposing figure in the world of technology. Her office, not far from Catherine's, was a cauldron of strategies and intrigues. Known for her ability to manipulate opinions and destabilize her adversaries with a charming smile, Vanessa saw the new closeness between Catherine and Elliot as a golden opportunity. On a particularly bustling afternoon, as the city thrummed with the fervor of rush hour, Vanessa convened a meeting with the press under the pretext of discussing emerging technological innovations. However, her real goal was to sow seeds of doubt and scandal. As leaders in this revolutionary industry, we must ask ourselves whether ethical standards are being maintained, not just in terms of our innovations, but also in our personal interactions, Vanessa stated, casting a meaningful look at the gathered journalists. A reporter, sensing a story, took the bait. Are you suggesting that not all leaders are maintaining these standards? Vanessa gave a malicious smile. I'm not one to gossip, but it's interesting to observe certain emerging dynamics. Rumors are circulating about a certain CEO and her young assistant. Personally, I think where there's smoke, there's fire. Vanessa's words spread like a virus, fueled by the frenzy of social media and relentless media coverage. Soon, the industry was buzzing with speculation about the nature of the relationship between Catherine and Elliot. The insinuation of a romantic scandal began to tarnish Catherine's meticulously built reputation, a woman who had always rigorously separated her personal life from her professional one. Catherine, upon learning of these rumors through an alert on her phone while reviewing documents, felt a wave of indignation and frustration. She immediately summoned Elliot to a private meeting in her office. Elliot, It seems we have become the focus of malicious gossip and speculation, Catherine began, showing him the headlines on her tablet. Vanessa is insinuating that there's something inappropriate between us. This is absurd, but unfortunately, this kind of thing can cause real damage. Elliot, whose face showed both surprise and concern, nodded understandingly. Mrs. Allwood, I'm sorry that my interactions with you have contributed to this. It's completely inappropriate and false. Is there anything I can do to help mitigate this? Catherine pondered for a moment, internally grateful for her loyal and professional team. For now, we need to be even more cautious about how we conduct ourselves in public, and perhaps limit our interactions outside of strictly professional contexts. I'll speak with my public relations team to prepare a response. As the day drew to a close, the wheels of Catherine's strategy began to turn, not only to clear her name, but also to counterattack Vanessa in a way that could end their rivalry once and for all. However, before she could put her plans into action, Marcus contacted her with some preliminary information about Elliot that could change the course of her personal investigation, taking the story in an entirely new direction. As night fell over the city, with the lights of skyscrapers reflecting like inverted constellations, Marcus was in his office surrounded by papers and sticky notes, his eyes fixed on the computer screen. His research on the watch had borne fruit, revealing layers of information that could be crucial for Catherine. Interesting, murmured Marcus, adjusting his glasses as he read the screen. Very interesting. The watch was indeed part of an extremely limited series, sold exclusively to a select group of clients years ago. The exclusivity of the piece added an extra layer of mystery to the case. He picked up the phone and dialed Catherine's number. "Catherine, we have some news about the watch," he said as soon as she answered. "It has been confirmed as part of a limited edition, something truly exclusive. But there's more. The adoptive father of Elliot acquired it at a charity auction." "From outside the country?" asked Catherine, her mind spinning with the implications. "Exactly," confirmed Marcus. "It seems the watch traveled quite a bit before ending up on Elliot's wrist." Catherine reflected on this information, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. "Thank you, Marcus. This might be the key we need to unravel everything." The next day, Catherine summoned Elliot to a meeting in her office. The young man entered, appearing calm, but there was a subtle tension in his shoulders, a caution in his eyes that did not go unnoticed by Catherine. "Elliot, we need to talk about the watch you wear," Catherine began, direct. "I discovered that it is part of a very limited series. Can you tell me more about how it came into your possession?" Elliot hesitated, a brief flash of uncertainty crossing his face before settling into an expression of resignation. "I knew this day would come," he said, looking at his hands. "The watch, it's more than just an object to me. My adoptive father gave it to me on my 18th birthday. He never talked much about how he acquired it, only mentioned that it was from a charity auction. I've always felt there was something more to the story of this watch." Catherine absorbed his words, pondering the emotional connection Elliot seemed to have with the watch. "Do you think your adoptive father would know more if pressed?" she asked, trying to gauge the best way to proceed without causing harm. I don't know," Elliot replied, clearly conflicted. "He is a reserved man, but I can try to speak with him if it would help clarify things." Catherine nodded in approval. "That would be helpful, Elliot. Any additional information could be crucial." Elliot agreed to seek more details from his adoptive father, and Catherine was left with the feeling that they were on the verge of a significant discovery. She could not foresee, however, that the truth about the watch would trigger a chain of events that would reveal much deeper and more personal secrets than she could have imagined. Meanwhile, across the city, Vanessa, still resentful and seeking vengeance, planned her next move, determined to exploit any new opportunity to destabilize Catherine. This growing intrigue promised to further complicate the situation, bringing new challenges for Catherine to face. The night of the technology industry gala was a spectacle of elegance and innovation, with leaders and visionaries gathered in one of the city's most prestigious halls. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft light over guests dressed in their formal attire, while a live orchestra played gentle melodies in the background. Catherine Allwood, ever impeccable navigated the crowd with the grace of someone who knows her power, but her mind was elsewhere. Preoccupied with the recent discoveries and the implications of Elliot's watch. Vanessa, on the other hand, had clearly started the evening with a different disposition. Clad in a stunning red dress that captured many glances, she floated through the room with a champagne glass in hand, interacting with a confidence that bordered on arrogance. As the evening progressed, her consumption of alcohol seemed to exceed her usual control, loosening her tongue and lowering her inhibitions. In a moment of carelessness inspired only by alcohol, Vanessa stepped onto the small stage designated for the night's announcements, interrupting the master of ceremonies with a careless gesture. The murmurs of the crowd turned into expectant silence as Vanessa grasped the microphone with a trembling hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her voice slurred, echoing through the hall. "I think it's time for some secrets to come to light on this night of celebration." Catherine, who had been conversing with a group of investors, felt a twinge of concern. She turned toward the stage, her gaze fixed on Vanessa. "All of you know the tragic story of our dear Catherine and her lost son, Daniel," continued Vanessa with a malicious smile. "What you don't know is that I found that boy years ago. Yes, it was I who handed him over to an adoption house, thinking I was doing the world a favor. And that watch, oh that watch, I helped put it into an auction to cover any trail that could lead to me." The revelation struck the room like a bomb. Whispers and incredulous looks spread among the guests, while cell phone cameras were raised to capture the moment. Catherine felt her heart race, anger and shock mixing into a tumultuous storm inside her. She advanced through the hall, her expression stern, her eyes locked on Vanessa. "How dare you?" Catherine confronted her directly on the stage, her voice firm, cutting through the buzz of the crowd. "You manipulated my son's life for your own gain and still have the audacity to boast about it in public?" Vanessa, realizing the gravity of what she had done, attempted to formulate a response, but words seemed to fail her. The mask of sobriety and control had fallen, leaving her exposed and vulnerable in front of the industry's elite. I thought I was doing what was best at the time," she stammered, trying to regain some dignity, but her words sounded empty and false. The silence that followed was dense, broken only by the sound of the orchestra, which resumed hesitantly. Catherine stepped back, her gaze still locked on Vanessa, promising with her eyes that this would not end here. As the party slowly returned to its rhythm, with guests murmuring among themselves about the implications of that confession, the night promised more revelations. Elliot, who had heard every word, approached Catherine, ready to offer his support. Together, they began to plot the next steps, while the story of Daniel, now more intricate than ever, seemed ready to unfold even further in the next chapter. The aftermath of the gala still reverberated through the corridors of the luxurious hall, where Vanessa's shocking revelation had left an indelible mark on the evening. Catherine and Elliot found a quiet corner, away from the curious eyes and attentive ears of other guests, who were still whispering about the scandal. Catherine, her demeanor still shaken by the public confession and its consequences, looked at Elliot, who seemed to carry a similar weight. "Elliot, what Vanessa said, it changes everything. But now, we need to be honest with each other. Is there something you need to tell me?" she asked, her voice firm yet visibly strained by emotion. Elliot sighed deeply, a gesture that seemed to release some of his anxiety before he spoke. "Yes, Catherine, there's something I've kept secret, not out of a desire to deceive you, but because I was trying to understand it myself." He paused, searching for the right words. "Recently, I took a DNA test. Curiosity about my origins has always been a delicate issue for me, and the doubts grew as I got older. The results showed that there are no biological ties between me and my adoptive parents." Catherine absorbed the information, her gaze fixed on Elliot, trying to decipher the multiple feelings this revelation stirred. "And why did you decide to apply to work with me, Elliot?" "I've always admired you, Catherine. Your determination, your integrity in the business world. I wanted to learn from the best." But he hesitated, looking down at his hands before raising his eyes to meet hers again. "When I learned about your son's story, something inside me resonated. I didn't know about the watch, nor any real connection. I just felt I needed to be here." Catherine, moved by Elliot's honesty, felt an emotional connection emerging, a complex mix of sympathy and a renewed sense of purpose. Elliot, that's a lot to take in, but I appreciate your honesty. It only strengthens my resolve to keep investigating. We need to find out more about your past and how all this connects. Their conversation was briefly interrupted by a waiter passing by, offering refreshments, allowing them both to collect their thoughts. Once alone again, Catherine placed her hand on Elliot's. "We'll face this together," she said with determination, "and we'll find out the truth, no matter what it reveals." Elliot nodded in gratitude, comforted by her support. "Thank you, Catherine. I couldn't face this alone." With a new pact of trust and determination formed between them, Catherine and Elliot prepared for the investigations to come. What they didn't yet know was that the story was about to become even more complicated, with discoveries that would challenge their perceptions about family, identity, and destiny. Meanwhile, across the room, the eyes of some guests were still fixed on them, murmuring theories and speculations. The gala night, though concluded, would leave a legacy of questions and a path filled with discoveries for Elliot and Catherine to explore. In the days following the gala, as the city resumed its usual rhythm, Catherine Allwood's office became an epicenter of tensions and expectations. With Elliot's revelation and the scandal sparked by Vanessa, Catherine found herself in a state of constant alert, oscillating between hope for new discoveries and anxiety about what still lay hidden. On a cold morning, with the gray sky covering the city like a heavy cloak, a lone figure crossed the imposing lobby of Catherine's corporation. The man, with an upright posture and a determined look, carried nothing but a worn briefcase. Approaching the reception desk, he calmly requested to see Catherine Allwood, identifying himself only as Daniel. "I need to speak with Catherine Allwood. It's extremely important," he said, his voice laden with a seriousness that made the receptionist hesitate for a moment before activating the intercom. Catherine, in her office, felt her heart race upon hearing the name. "Send him in," she said, almost breathlessly, her hand pressing lightly against her chest, as if it could calm her racing heart. When Daniel entered, time seemed to freeze. He was a man now, with striking features and intense eyes that reflected a life of unanswered questions. Catherine slowly rose, her eyes scanning the face of the man before her, searching for traces of the boy she had lost so many years ago. "Daniel?" Catherine's voice trembled, mixing hope and fear. "Yes, mother," he replied, his voice carrying a mix of emotion and resolution. "I received this letter," he said, extending his hand to deliver the anonymous letter that Marcus had sent, explaining everything. Catherine took the letter with trembling hands, reading it quickly while tears began to form in her eyes. Daniel, seeing his mother's emotion, took a step forward, instinctively extending his arms. She did not hesitate. With a sob, she threw herself into her son's embrace, an embrace that sealed years of pain and longing. "I had to come," Daniel said, holding his mother tightly. "After reading everything, I needed to find you, needed to understand everything that happened." "And I have been waiting for you all these years," Catherine whispered, feeling an indescribable relief at holding Daniel. "To think that you were out there, alone." They remained like this for long moments, reaffirming a bond that, despite the separation, had never truly been broken. When they finally stepped back, there was a clarity in their eyes, a determination to rebuild what had been lost. "I have so many questions," said Daniel, looking into Catherine's eyes, seeking there the answers his soul so deeply craved. "And we will find all the answers together," Catherine promised, holding her son's hands. Together they began to plan how they would face the revelations Vanessa had unleashed, and how they would rebuild the life that had been stolen from them. As mother and son rekindled their ties, elsewhere in the city, Vanessa, now a discredited and fearful figure, contemplated the consequences of her actions, preparing for what she knew would be a difficult battle to clear her name and regain her position. In the days following Daniel's revelation and his emotional reunion with Catherine, the Office of Allwood Technologies became an epicenter of activity and renewal. With Daniel now by her side, Catherine felt a new chapter unfolding before her, not just in personal recovery, but also in her business empire. Daniel, absorbing the corporate world his mother had built, began to integrate into the company with a gentle yet firm determination. "Mom, I want to learn everything I can here," he said one morning, looking out over the city skyline through the panoramic windows of Catherine's office. "And I want to help Elliot too. His story deserves answers." Catherine, watching her son with a mix of pride and relief, nodded affirmatively. "And we will find out everything together," she replied, her voice carrying the weight and wisdom of someone who had faced countless battles. Elliot, for his part, found in Daniel not just a colleague, but an unexpected ally. Together, they began to unearth details about the mysterious circumstances of Elliot's past, a quest that took them to old archives and interviews with figures from Elliot's past that he barely remembered or had never met. Meanwhile, Vanessa found herself in an increasingly complicated situation. Police investigations into her past actions were gaining momentum, with each revelation adding a layer of public and legal scrutiny. In a tense afternoon, Vanessa sat in her office, the phone ringing incessantly as lawyers and journalists sought her statements. "Are you sure you wanted to decline another interview, Mrs. Reed?" her assistant asked, concerned about the media onslaught. Vanessa, staring at the papers in front of her, sighed deeply. "Yes, now is not the time to talk. We need to fully understand the legal situation before anything else." The tension was palpable, but in another part of the city, Catherine was laying the groundwork for a positive legacy. Inspired by her own pain and the journey of reunion with Daniel, she founded an organization dedicated to helping missing children and their families. At an emotional press conference, Catherine announced the creation of the foundation. "With the Allwood Foundation for Missing Children, we will ensure that no family has to endure the pain and uncertainty we faced," declared Catherine, with Daniel and Elliot by her side. "We will provide resources, support, and hope." The event was well received, with various families and organizations expressing their support and gratitude. The story of Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot became a symbol of resilience and renewal, inspiring many who followed closely. As the sun set over the city, illuminating the buildings with a golden light, the trio contemplated the future. New challenges and opportunities awaited them, but they knew that together, they were ready to face whatever came next. And as they prepared for the next steps, a new phase was about to begin. In the next chapter of their lives, they would find themselves navigating unknown waters, facing adversities, and celebrating achievements in a world that was constantly changing. In the aftermath of the revelations that had shaken their lives, Catherine and Daniel found themselves in a sea of emotions that needed to be carefully navigated. The headquarters of Allwood Technologies, a space once dedicated solely to business, transformed into a ground for personal and emotional reconnection. Catherine had reserved a small conference room that became their private refuge, a place where she and Daniel could rebuild the lost years. "I remember you teaching me to ride a bike in the park near our old house," Daniel said in one of these meetings, a nostalgic smile crossing his face as he looked at an old photograph Catherine had brought. "You ran alongside me, holding the seat until I found my balance." Catherine smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "And you were so proud when you finally managed to pedal on your own. I never forgot that day." Each shared story was a brick in rebuilding their relationship, a reminder of a happy past that had been abruptly interrupted. Over time, these sessions became less about reminiscing and more about planning for the future. Daniel, whose life had been a journey of survival and discovery, was eager to understand and contribute to his mother's business empire. "I've been thinking," he started one afternoon, "about how we can use our technology to help prevent children from getting lost or being separated from their families." Catherine, encouraged by Daniel's initiative, listened attentively as he outlined ideas for new safety programs and location apps that could be integrated into the company's existing services. "That's brilliant, Daniel. It's the perfect fusion of our personal purpose with our corporate mission," she responded, her heart swelling with pride for the man her son had become. As mother and son strengthened their bond and collaborated on new projects, Elliot found his own place in this new arrangement. His relationship with Catherine had evolved. He was no longer just an assistant, but a vital member of a trio that was determined to make a difference. Daniel, recognizing Elliot's loyalty and competence, had taken him under his wing, guiding him through the intricate aspects of the business and involving him in strategic decisions. "Elliot, your insight has been invaluable," Daniel remarked after a strategy meeting, placing a comforting hand on the younger man's shoulder. "I'm really grateful to have you with us on this journey." Elliot, feeling valued and respected, simply nodded, a modest smile adorning his face. "It's an honor to learn from you both and contribute to something so meaningful," he replied, his gratitude evident. This period of growth and learning culminated in a strong synergy among the three, creating not just an effective leadership team, but a chosen family that supported each other every step of the way. However, as they prepared to launch their new projects into the world, unexpected challenges began to emerge, testing the strength of their newly formed bonds and the resilience of their ideals. As the Allwood family worked on rebuilding personal and professional bonds, a new challenge began to emerge, threatening the newfound stability. At the heart of Allwood Technologies, a series of puzzling incidents started to arise, casting a shadow over the harmony that Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot were striving to establish. Catherine was reviewing financial reports in her office when she noticed inconsistencies that could not be easily explained. Critical documents, including new product designs and market strategies, had disappeared. Initially, she thought it was an error or a matter of disorganization, but as the pattern of disappearances continued, the reality of potential industrial espionage became apparent. On a rainy morning, as the rain rhythmically pattered against the office windows, Catherine called an urgent meeting with Daniel and Elliot. "We need to address something troubling," she began, her expression serious, reflecting the gravity of the situation. "Someone is accessing and possibly stealing our confidential documents." Daniel, whose experience with adversities gave him a unique perspective, promptly suggested, "We should consider all possibilities, including the chance of this being an inside job. Maybe we should review our security protocols and conduct a comprehensive audit of access to our systems." Elliot added, "I also think we should check all security cameras and access logs from the past few months. And if Vanessa is behind this, we need concrete evidence to take legal action." The trio's determination to protect the integrity of the company led them to a concentrated effort. They spent days immersed in records, collaborating with the information security team to track down the source of the leaks. During one of these investigative sessions, they discovered a series of unauthorized accesses that occurred late at night, indicating that the perpetrator had a deep knowledge of the company's systems. "This doesn't seem like the work of a novice," observed Catherine, examining the logs that showed sophisticated intrusions. "Whoever is doing this knows exactly what to look for and where to find it." As the mystery of the missing documents deepened, the team redoubled their efforts to protect their innovations and trade secrets. They implemented additional security measures and began actively monitoring all internal communications and server accesses, preparing to catch the culprit in action. This collective effort not only strengthened the cohesion between Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot, but also reaffirmed their commitment to the company and to each other. United against the threat, they were ready to face whatever came next, determined to maintain the integrity and success of Allwood Technologies. As the situation at Allwood Technologies grew more tense, Catherine, recognizing the need for additional expertise, called in Marcus to bolster the investigation. The internal threat demanded a meticulous approach, and Marcus's expertise in cybersecurity was crucial. He arrived at the office equipped with cutting-edge tools and immediately set to work with the company's IT team. "We'll need to access all system access logs from the past 6 months," Marcus instructed the team, setting up a series of monitoring and data analysis software. "We need to identify any anomalous activity, any pattern that stands out." While Marcus worked on the technical aspects, Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot gathered to discuss the long-term strategy. "We can't let this paralyze us," said Catherine, looking to her two most trusted collaborators. "Our priority is to protect our assets and our team. Anyone behind this cannot be underestimated." Daniel, absorbing the seriousness of the situation, suggested, Maybe we should also consider a broader internal audit. If someone has managed to access our most sensitive data, it might indicate a larger flaw in our security protocols. I agree, responded Elliot, who had been closely monitoring the situation. And besides, I would recommend strengthening our internal communication about the importance of information security. Everyone in the company needs to be alert. With the action plan defined, Marcus made significant progress. He uncovered a series of unauthorized accesses that not only confirmed the suspicion of an insider, but also pointed to a level of advanced technical knowledge. "We found something interesting," Marcus announced, calling the trio to the monitoring room. "There's a pattern in the timing of the accesses that coincides with the work schedules of a small group of employees. I'll need authorization to dig deeper, perhaps even conduct discrete interviews with this group." Catherine nodded, determined. "Do whatever is necessary, Marcus. We cannot let this slide." With Marcus intensifying the investigation and the internal team working to bolster their defenses, the air was palpable with tension, but there was also a sense of unity. Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot knew that facing this challenge together would further strengthen their bonds and reaffirm their commitment to the integrity and success of the company. As the investigation progressed, preparations for a covert operation to identify and confront the informant were fully underway. The team was ready to act as soon as Marcus gave the signal, ready to protect the legacy they had built together. After weeks of intense monitoring and meticulous investigations under Marcus's direction, the team at Allwood Technologies was ready to take a decisive step. The cybersecurity net woven around the company's critical data had revealed a crucial clue, a pattern of suspicious accesses during strategic meetings. Based on this discovery, Catherine and her team devised an audacious plan to unmask the spy. "Let's set up an emergency meeting about a technological breakthrough that doesn't exist," Marcus suggested during one of the planning sessions. "If we internally announce that we're about to launch a revolutionary product, the spy will surely try to access the information." Catherine, cautious but determined, agreed to the plan. "Make sure that only a restricted circle knows the true nature of this meeting. We want to control exactly who receives the information and who reacts to it." The meeting was meticulously organized. An email was sent to a selected group of employees, including the small group Marcus had identified in his investigations. The email detailed an urgent strategic session to discuss the launch of a supposed new data security system, something so innovative it could redefine the industry standard. On the scheduled day, the atmosphere in the conference room was tense, with each participant unknowingly playing a role in the meticulously orchestrated drama. Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot, along with Marcus, carefully watched the reactions of each attendee. As the discussion unfolded, the IT security team monitored server accesses in real time. It didn't take long for an alert to discreetly sound on Marcus's laptop. One of the consultants, an individual who had always seemed competent and discreet, had accessed the fake information about the product. Marcus discreetly signaled to the security team, who were already on standby. The meeting was interrupted as two security agents entered the room and approached the surprised consultant. "We need you to come with us, please," one of the agents said calmly, avoiding any unnecessary commotion. The consultant, clearly stunned, looked at Catherine and the others at the table. "I don't understand. What's happening?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Catherine stood up, her authoritative stance contrasting with the disappointment on her face. "We've discovered that you accessed confidential information that turned out to be compromising to our company. We need to clarify exactly what happened," she explained, maintaining control of the situation. As the consultant was escorted out of the room, the tension gave way to a mixed feeling of relief and melancholy. Catherine turned to her team, her eyes sweeping over each face. "This doesn't end here," she stated firmly. "We need to fully understand the motivations and how extensive this network of espionage is." As the team absorbed the success of the operation and the implications of what they had discovered, they prepared for the next steps. Capturing the spy was just the tip of the iceberg, and many questions still needed answers. The investigation would continue, now with a new focus: to discover which information had been compromised and what the potential impact could be for Allwood Technologies and the security of their innovative projects. After the dramatic capture of the spy in the conference room, Allwood Technologies' security team led the consultant to a secure interview room. The atmosphere was charged with tension as Catherine, accompanied by Marcus and a company lawyer, prepared to confront the individual who had tried to compromise the integrity of their company. The consultant, a middle-aged man with an otherwise impeccable career, appeared visibly shaken as Catherine entered the room. The silence that followed was heavy. Only the sound of rain hitting the windows filled the space. Catherine initiated the confrontation with forced calm. "You were caught accessing and distributing confidential information that belongs to Allwood Technologies. We want to know who else is involved and why you did this," she said, maintaining firm eye contact. The man swallowed hard, his hands trembling slightly on the table. After a long moment of hesitation, he finally began to speak. I was being pressured by a rival company. They knew I had financial troubles and offered a sum that I couldn't refuse." "Who are they?" Marcus intervened, his voice firm and demanding. The consultant named the rival company and explained how the initial contacts were made and how the information was passed. The revelations were recorded, and each detail added depth to the betrayal. Catherine, listening intently, felt a mix of anger and sadness. She had trusted this man, given him access to some of the company's most innovative projects. "How could you compromise not just our security, but also that of all your colleagues?" she asked, disappointment clear in her voice. "I'm truly sorry, Catherine. It was the biggest mistake of my life," he responded, his voice choked with emotion. Following the confession, Allwood Technologies' legal team acted swiftly. A series of legal actions was initiated against the rival company, accusing them of industrial espionage and conspiracy. Meanwhile, Catherine saw this incident as a clear sign that changes were needed within her own organization. In a subsequent meeting with company leadership, Catherine presented a robust plan to strengthen internal security policies. "This can never happen again. We will implement stricter security checks, regular audits, and frequent training on the importance of confidentiality and loyalty," she declared. Beyond security measures, Catherine initiated an internal campaign to promote a culture of transparency and loyalty. Workshops and team-building sessions were organized to reinforce team cohesion and commitment to the company's values. "We must protect our company as if it were our family. Loyalty and transparency must be the foundation on which all our work is built," Catherine stated in one of the meetings with employees. With these new policies and programs in place, Allwood Technologies not only strengthened its security, but also reinforced its employees' commitment to the company's mission and vision. As the team adapted to these changes, Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot continued to work together, more determined than ever to protect their company and secure its future. After confronting and overcoming the security crisis at Allwood Technologies, Catherine found a new sense of purpose and determination. With the company now secure and internal policies strengthened, she turned her attention to a cause that deeply touched her heart: the foundation for missing children that she had planned during the most challenging moments of her personal and professional life. On a clear Monday morning, Catherine convened a meeting with Daniel and Elliot to discuss the next steps for the Allwood Foundation for Missing Children. The office was bathed in the soft light of the autumn sun, creating an atmosphere of optimism and renewal. "This foundation is more than a project to me. It's a mission," Catherine began, distributing brochures with the foundation's logo and a list of planned initiatives. "We have the opportunity and the resources to make a real difference in the lives of families who are going through what I went through. We cannot waste this chance." Daniel, whose own life had been marked by disappearances and revelations, was especially motivated. "I want to be involved in every part of this," he stated, examining the materials. "I think we should start with an awareness campaign. We need to educate people on how to protect their families and what to do in cases of disappearance." Elliot, who had become a key piece in the organization, suggested using technology to aid the foundation's missions. We can develop an app that helps parents maintain an updated digital record of important information about their children, which can be quickly accessed by authorities in case of an emergency. Impressed with the ideas, Catherine nodded in approval. Excellent, Elliot. Let's develop that. Also, I want us to organize workshops and seminars. We can collaborate with schools and communities to disseminate information and prevention techniques. In the following months, the Allwood Foundation for Missing Children began to take shape. They launched a series of initiatives, including a national hotline for reports of missing children, partnerships with law enforcement agencies to improve response times, and support for families still searching for their loved ones. One of the Foundation's first events was a community seminar, which brought together child safety experts, psychologists, and local authorities. Daniel and Elliot were there, helping to organize and also actively participating in the discussions and training sessions. Thank you all for being here today, Catherine said during the opening of the seminar. Every child we manage to help, every family we manage to support, brings us closer to a world where no mother or father needs to endure the sleepless nights that I went through. The impact of the Foundation was felt almost immediately. Stories of children reunited with their families thanks to the quick actions facilitated by the Foundation's resources began to appear in the news. And each story was a personal victory for Catherine and her team. As the Foundation grew and solidified as a significant force in the fight against child disappearance, Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot continued to lead Allwood Technologies with a renewed sense of purpose, knowing that every success at the company helped to sustain and expand the Foundation's efforts. They were creating a legacy not just of commercial success, but of profound and lasting social impact. Inspired by the Foundation's actions and driven by an intrinsic need to understand his origins, Daniel decided to delve deeper into his own history. He knew that to truly move forward, he needed to confront the past that had always haunted him. With firm resolve and Elliot by his side as a friend and ally, they planned a journey to the small town where Daniel had been found years ago. The trip was marked by a mix of emotions. As the car neared the town, the scenery shifting from urban skyscrapers to green fields and quaint houses, Daniel felt a growing anxiety mixed with cautious hope. Elliot, sensing his friend's tension, offered words of encouragement. "No matter what we find, Daniel, I'm here with you. We'll figure this out together." Upon arrival, they were greeted by a town that seemed frozen in time, with its narrow streets and weathered shop fronts. They began their search at the local town hall, where an elderly clerk, upon hearing Daniel's story, lit up with recognition. "Ah, the mysterious boy," the man said with a trembling voice. "Yes, I remember. You appeared out of nowhere, and everyone in town was talking about it. There was a lot of concern, you know. People tried to help however they could." Encouraged by the clerk, Daniel and Elliot visited landmarks that had been significant during Daniel's brief stay in the town. They visited the central square, where Daniel had been found, and the small diner where he had been fed and cared for by locals before the authorities arrived. "These people really cared," Daniel remarked, looking around, absorbing every detail as if trying to capture memories that weren't his own. "It's strange, Elliot. I don't remember this, but I feel a connection, as if somehow this place is a part of who I am." Elliot, documenting the journey with his camera, agreed. "It's your story, Daniel. Every piece of it has shaped you in some way, even if you don't remember." Talking with locals, they collected small stories and fragments of memories about those confusing days. A woman, who was a young mother at the time, remembered giving Daniel a small toy to soothe him. She still lived in the same house, and after a brief search, found the toy and handed it to Daniel. "I never imagined I'd see you again, all grown up and well," she said, tears in her eyes. "You were always in our prayers." With each story, Daniel felt the gaps in his past being filled. These weren't just pieces of information. They were parts of an emotional puzzle he needed to construct his complete identity. As the sun began to set, Daniel and Elliot sat on a bench in the square, reflecting on the day. Daniel felt a mix of gratitude and melancholy, a recognition that, although some answers might never be fully found, he had gained something invaluable, a sense of belonging and closure from his turbulent past. As they left the town at dusk, both knew that this chapter of their life was closing, but another was just beginning. With new perspectives and lessons learned, they were ready to face the future, no matter what it brought. After the revealing and emotional return from his trip to the town where he was found, Daniel felt rejuvenated and inspired. The stories and support he had received from that small community reinforced his determination to make a greater difference. With this new momentum, he convened a strategic meeting with Catherine and the key members of the Allwood Foundation for Missing Children. In the spacious conference room, overlooking the city skyline now beginning to be tinged with the soft colors of dusk, Daniel presented his vision. The trip showed me how much a community can do when it's informed and engaged. Imagine if we could unite communities around the world with the same goal, began Daniel, his enthusiasm contagious. Catherine, always attentive and thoughtful, listened as Daniel unfolded his plans. I want to expand our foundation into a global platform, not just to raise awareness, but to create an active network of organizations in different countries, all working together to locate and rescue missing children. The effectiveness of our efforts so far has been remarkable, but there is so much more we can do if we operate on a global scale, continued Daniel. He detailed how technology could be used to connect these organizations, enabling real-time information sharing and collaboration on transnational cases of missing children. Catherine, moved by the passion and clarity of her son, did not hesitate in her support. Daniel, your idea is not just visionary, but absolutely necessary, she responded, emotion clear in her voice. Turning our pain into a force for global good is exactly what we should aspire to. Let's make this our mission. In the days that followed, the Foundation's team worked tirelessly to turn Daniel's vision into reality. Partnerships were established with similar organizations in Europe, Asia, and Latin America, each bringing their own experiences and resources to the table. The global platform began to take shape, named the Global Hope Network, a name that perfectly reflected its purpose and aspiration. At a press conference, Catherine and Daniel officially announced the expansion of the foundation. Today, we are not just launching a new project, but inaugurating a new era in the fight against child disappearance, declared Catherine, with Daniel by her side. Together, as a global community, we can do more than just search for missing children. We can prevent these disappearances and protect our future. The launch was met with enthusiasm and support, both from international organizations and governments around the world, all recognizing the vital importance of such an initiative. Motivated by the initial success and the clear need for their work, Daniel, Catherine, and the entire foundation team continued to plan and execute new strategies to strengthen the network. Each step forward reinforced their commitment to transform a legacy of pain into one of hope and action. As the Allwood Foundation for Missing Children expanded, becoming an influential global force, and Allwood technologies continued to thrive, Catherine began to reflect more deeply on the future and the legacy she wished to leave. On a quiet afternoon, with the sun softly filtering through her office windows, she invited Daniel for an important conversation about the future direction of the company and the foundation. Sitting face to face, the weight of responsibility and expectation hung in the air, tangible and serious. Catherine started the conversation with a reflective tone. Daniel, you've shown an incredible capacity for leadership and a passion that goes beyond what I expected. I've been thinking about the future of our company and the foundation, she said, pausing to measure her words carefully. Daniel, sensing the gravity of the moment, leaned forward, attentive. Mom, I'm ready for whatever responsibility you think I should take on. I want to be a part of this legacy, not just for us, but for all the families that depend on our work. Catherine smiled, a mix of pride and melancholy in her eyes. I know that, and that's why I'm considering starting to pass more responsibilities to you. Not just the daily operations, but also the strategic planning and long-term expansion of the foundation and the company. Daniel nodded, understanding the magnitude of what was being proposed. I will dedicate myself to learning everything I can. I want to be up to the legacy you've created and continue to build on it, not just maintain it. The conversation evolved into more specific details about the transition, with Catherine explaining her plans to mentor Daniel, introducing him to crucial connections and involving him in higher-level strategic decisions. It will be a gradual process, she explained, but I want you to start making more decisions with my guidance. Let's start with an expansion project I have in mind for the foundation. With the discussion of these plans, a new phase of preparation began for Daniel. In the months that followed, he was integrated into the nuances of executive leadership, participating in high-level meetings, strategic decisions, and crucially, representing Allwood Technologies and the foundation at global events. Catherine, watching his progress, felt increasingly confident that the future of the company and the foundation was in good hands. As mother and son planned and worked together, the legacy of the Allwood family began to take a new shape, promising not only the continuation of current successes, but also expansion into new horizons. Together, they were paving the way for a new generation of innovation and social impact, ensuring that the vital work of the foundation continued to grow and thrive under Daniel's visionary leadership. As the 20th anniversary of the Allwood Foundation for Missing Children approached, Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot prepared for an event that would mark the pinnacle of 2 decades of tireless work and dedication. The chosen venue was an elegant event hall, decorated with photos and stories of the children and families whose lives had been transformed by the foundation. Catherine, observing the final preparations, felt a mix of emotion and reflection. Beside her, Daniel adjusted the last details of the stage, where he would later speak about the foundation's future plans. Elliot, meanwhile, was checking the presentation technology, ensuring everything worked perfectly for the live broadcast of the event to global partners. "Everything's ready, Mom," Daniel said, approaching Catherine with a smile. "Can you believe it's been 20 years? All that we've accomplished?" Catherine looked at her son, her heart filled with pride. "Sometimes I can hardly believe it, but when I see the impact we've made, I know every challenge was worth it." As guests began to arrive, the atmosphere filled with a palpable energy. Families who had been helped by the foundation, long-term partners, and new supporters mingled, sharing stories of despair transformed into hope. One of the evening's most moving moments came when a mother took the stage to share her testimony. Tears streamed down her face as she recounted how the foundation had helped reunite her missing daughter with the family. "Without the Allwood Foundation, I don't know if my daughter would be here today," she said, pointing to a young woman beside the stage who waved shyly at the audience. After the testimonies, Daniel took the stage. "Today, as we celebrate the past, we also look to the future," he announced. "It is with great pride that we introduce our new global program, which will utilize the latest tracking technologies and artificial intelligence to prevent child disappearances worldwide." The audience erupted in applause, moved and inspired by the vision of a future where fewer families might face the agony of a missing child. At the event's end, Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot gathered for a moment of quiet reflection together. Looking at the 2 men who were now pillars in both her personal and professional life, Catherine felt immense gratitude. "Thank you, Daniel, Elliot. Without you, none of this would be possible. What we started as a small project has grown into something that truly makes a difference in the world," said Catherine, her voice thick with emotion. Daniel held his mother's hand, and Elliot placed a comforting hand on both their shoulders. Together, they watched the crowd disperse, each person carrying with them a spark of hope. "The journey continues," Daniel said, contemplative, "and the future is bright." Thus, the story of Catherine, Daniel, and Elliot did not end, but evolved into a new chapter of infinite possibilities, marked by a legacy of love, determination, and global impact.
So, if you're not subscribed yet, click on the subscribe button below and join our community. Thank you for your support and see you in the next videos.